Good morning, you guys. I slept in a little bit today just because I wasn't expecting anything too crazy to happen today. Looking at the news for today, we don't really have too much on the schedule. We have a couple Fed heads on the mic, 30-year bond auctions. Nothing really going on. So, going over this price, you can see here on Tuesday. Oops, change that. We did trade a traditional out of that high here at 795 down to its downside targets of 755. And you see we do consolidate near this level. There's a higher time frame long series at that level with this profit target of this short series here. So we just kind of consolidate around there. That's like a wedge forming, and then we break out of balance and rotate back up into this high. So as you guys will remember, for me, a break above this, I would probably have said right here, break above this 790s and hold, which is the important part. Is not like just a break of the level, it's a break and hold above. That's where I start to consider this as a technical failure of this sequence, because the sequence is no longer holding. And as you can see, actually, the thing with people are like, oh, fibs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this is anchored from this level to here, right there. And so I can anchor this before any of the rest of this price starts to form. So I'm looking at these levels in advance. So as we come back up into this 774s, you can actually see we open in Wednesday session. We open near this level, and what do you see? We actually do see some selling as we open at this level, fail to push lower, we go in for that gap fill, and then we have a rotation higher. And so for me, the 790s was that technical failure of this sequence. And as you can see, as we rotate up into the 790s, you see there is a reaction at this level, and sellers fail to push the price below and keep the price below this level. And what happens afterwards is we break back above this level, and now you'll see we are holding above this level, which is a very key when you hear me say break and hold above, break and hold below, because what you'll get is something called look above and fail, or look below and fail. It's a auction theory term. So if it looked above and failed, it means that buyers were not there to kind of like lift it up, and we're going to have that retracement. But you see we look above, sellers fail to push the price lower, and what we have now is a break above this level and a hold. And as this goes back and forth, you can see we are now building value at this high, and that means that buyers are stepping in to accept higher prices, and that's a key. That's why you want to see break and hold above, because you want to see price find acceptance and establish value at these highs. So that's why you don't fade a trend day necessarily, because once buyers step in to accept these higher prices and build value at this high, like most likely it's not going to go down without like some sort of catalyst or a lot of exhaustion or whatever, because then all of these people are going to get liquidated, which is still, you never know, always a possibility. So let me turn on the overnight session. As you can see, as we hold above that level, what happens now is we rotate higher. We go up another, what is that? From that level, another almost 20 handles. Right here we have a head and shoulders forming, shoulder, head, shoulder. Right here, neckline break. And we are just maintaining above this level. That's kind of what I'm looking at. So what I would be looking for going into today's session, and considering we don't have a lot of catalysts, and considering yesterday we did have a lot of buying. Let me turn off the overnight session. It looks like we will be opening kind of near where we closed yesterday, so not really much of a gap up. Opening imbalance. So what I would be looking for most likely, looks like we have an extension series holding right here that completed its targets in the overnight session, but not during regular trading hours. So off the open, what I'd kind of be looking for is a potential completion of this profit target, and then potentially a retest of some of these lower support levels. And I would want to see us again maintain above probably the 780s, but I would also consider this to be a valid draw as well if we don't hold that extension. So as long as we maintain kind of above this 779, I think that we're good. Let me just back out into this. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for the S&P. As you can see, we are just kind of auctioning back and forth above here. So price is establishing value at these highs. And since that extension did technically complete in the overnight session, you could consider this also. As you can see, we do trade this twice in the overnight session. I'll kind of be looking for a completion of this series, maintain above 790s. And if we don't maintain above this 790s, then I do anticipate potential retest of some lower support levels, especially without a catalyst. And I'm not really expecting anything too crazy today. We did have a lot of buying going on, so you can expect a little bit of selling just to like balance out this buying from yesterday, with some upside targets above at 820s. Are we gonna hit that today? Who knows? We could just quite literally like balance out from yesterday. Anytime you have like a trend day, it's very common to see like a balance day afterwards. And when we're coming out of a multi-day balance, you'll know that the market's like building energy for a breakout of balance, and you don't know which direction it's gonna go. Nobody really knows. We use all these studies and we try to see like absorption and this and that and divergences, but the reality is we're just all making our best educated guesses, and we don't really know. We don't really know where it's going. We just know that after a period of consolidation, there's going to be a breakout of balance in one of two ways because of the exhaustion of one of the market participants. That's all you know. So if you know that, you could just prepare for both sides of the situation. And so looking at the NASDAQ, you can see we did come up and complete some of these higher targets up here, 2504 or 405. So what am I looking at? This didn't hold. So you see we come down, retest these, rotate back up, and it looks like we had a better move in NASDAQ than we did in ES. Back out into a higher time frame. Let's see where we are. Holds that. Exhaustion here, consolidation there. And then so I would be looking for this next series right here to hold. Let's turn the extended hours off. And this is where sometimes it gets a little bit tough because we did move a little bit higher in the overnight session, but this is where we closed. So sometimes I'll anchor using overnight levels, sometimes I won't. Typically with overnight levels, they're just not as significant just because there's less volume traded in the overnight session, and the cash market doesn't trade in the overnight session anyways. And the SPX cash market kind of controls everything. That's why you'll see a lot of those people that post those stats like, oh, well, 90% this sweeps the Asia, whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't really care about what's happening as much during the overnight session because the cash market's not open. Of course, with nuances. Because if people are anticipating some sort of move the next day, they will position themselves in the cash market. So sometimes you can use it as like clues, but you take it with a grain of salt. And unless you're kind of trained or you have experience in how to like spot or recognize that kind of stuff, I wouldn't put too much eggs in that basket. Yeah, so this move in NASDAQ was actually really nice. So this was a good move. We had a good move in the Russell. I was trading RTY yesterday. You know, nice move in the Russell. We actually haven't broke above this sequence yet. Maybe we did an overnight session. Not really. See, we're just kind of consolidating and holding. CYM. Oops. So actually see the move in the YM wasn't as strong. Looks like we actually are kind of just consolidating. So one thing that I look for is divergences between the indexes. You want to see all of these indexes moving in the same direction for like a confirmation. And when you see them not moving in the same direction, it's kind of a little bit of a red flag. Usually YM is the strongest market. And so what you'll see here is we do trade this series down to its targets, consolidate, and now break above, look above that, fail, retest that resistance level, fail to push the price lower. So now I'm looking at this counter sequence to hold most likely out of this right here. You see we are consolidating near that 878 level. So looking for this sequence to kind of finish up whatever sellers are left over here. Maybe potential retest of this 786 and then be the third test of this 711. So I'll kind of be looking for this 812 to most likely hold, which I think it probably did. No, it didn't hold in the overnight session. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for YM. So you just don't want to see like widespread divergences between the indexes. It's just not really like a great sign. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Take a peek at gold really quick. Looks like we are coming up on these higher time frame targets for gold. You see this does trade right here at 986, going up to its upside targets of 4082. We have another one that trades, looks like that just trades a traditional right here, 4023. So I have that target above at 107. Gold's been kind of like on this crazy move, so I think that this is a nice counter sequence out of this low. We have this divergence right here. Sellers fail to push that price lower. Nice reaction to this 4023 level. So I probably would be looking for this sequence to complete in gold. Coming out of that low here in the overnight session, trades here at 4042, completes that target with those upside targets at 4086, 101, 107. So I'd be looking for this next, wherever this next high gets put in, I would put this as that next sequence. And most likely it's going to be somewhere like right here. If I had to guesstimate it. And it would come back down and potentially retest some of these 59s, 52s. Of course, we could go into an extension series, but let's put that right there. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I haven't looked at crude in a little bit, but I'll take a peek at it. Someone asked me about crude. So if you guys follow along with some of my older charts, I actually posted about this in August. These blue zones and these levels are from August for crude. And as you see, we do come up and complete that target very nicely. So this is the sequence is completed. And now you'll see we have a move out of that. So nice mean reversion in oil. This is most likely going to be the local bottom if I had to guess. And we start a new sequence out of that low. Retest this level, have that responsive buying come in. So for oil, looks like we hold this right here. And this trades this 61.8, and that target's above right here. It's 63.44. So, I might be looking for some potential trades in oil up to these 63.45s. Looks good right now. So it's kind of what I'm looking at. I think that there is potential exhaustion at this level. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for oil, especially after we come out of that low. Hold this sequence, nice reaction. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Look at this. And this is why with oil and gold, you have to set limits, because you're just not going to be just casually looking at this all day and catch this one wick. So I'm looking for a completion of that target and potentially maybe another sequence out of this low right here for like a potential entry wherever this swing high gets put in. So hopefully this helps you guys if you trade crude or gold or whatever. Sorry, this video's got a little bit yappy. So anyways, trade safe. Bye.